One of the most uncomfortable moments in a high stakes conversation is silence. You say the price, and the room goes quiet. You make a recommendation, and nobody responds. You ask a question, and all you get is one long pause. But what most professionals do in that moment is they panic. They explain, they soften, they fill the silence. But the truth is, silence in a negotiation or sales conversation almost never means what people think it means. Today, John and I are going to break down what silence actually is signaling and why the person who handles it best usually ends up controlling the room.
Welcome to Own the Room, for people operating where the stakes are real. Pitches, negotiations, leadership conversations that don't come with a second chance. Here, you'll learn to control perception, read the room, and thrive in high-stakes communication. Now here's Jake Stahl, who's going to help you turn communication into your unfair advantage.
So, Jake, we just did an episode on the power of silence.
Yeah.
And I know that silence sometimes as a solopreneur can be a bad sign. It can be a nerve-wracking sign. You're talking and then all of a sudden you leave that price out there and then all I hear is nothing, not even a pin drop.
Yeah.
So silence can't always be good, but I know it can't always be bad. It's important to determine what kind of silence we're experiencing, right?
Yeah, John, you're right. And I think we mostly assume that silence means something went wrong.
Yes.
And as solopreneurs, we start to explain more and justify more and soften our position. And what we're not seeing is that it's actually destroying the authority we had just established just seconds earlier. So I think maybe, John, what we want to do today is boil it down a little more, because silence in a conversation is almost never empty. It means something. And the problem is just most people don't know how to read it. John, let me ask you this. What do you assume is happening when, let's say, you name your price and that person goes dead quiet? What are the assumptions running through your head?
I just did this the other day and I named my price, and the first thing I assumed was, that's too high. He's thinking of a way to tell me no. He likes me. He thinks I'm a nice guy, but he's thinking of a way to tell me no without hurting my feelings.
Yeah. It's funny how our brain goes to that dark place, right? Really, what's happening in somebody's mind is four different things. So they're evaluating, they're uncertain, they're aligning internally, or they've already decided. So it falls into those four buckets. And from the outside, this all looks identical. But psychologically, John, they're really different. When somebody's evaluating, they're weighing risk. When somebody's uncertain, they're trying to resolve doubt. And when they're aligning internally, they're just deciding whether the decision fits. And honestly, when somebody's decided, they're trying to figure out the next step. So a good way to think about silence is these people are simply processing. So let's break this down. I want you to look at silence through three lenses: evaluation, hesitation, and commitment. So evaluation silence is actually pretty healthy. It means the person is seriously considering what you just said. Hesitation silence means mentally they're encountering friction. Maybe the price surprised them, maybe the risk feels high, but something is just rubbing them the wrong way. But commitment silence is the one most people just never recognize. That's when someone is mentally stepping into the decision, they're imagining the outcome, they may even be picturing the consequences. That silence is a strong buying signal. But here's a problem, John. If you interrupt it, you're breaking that moment. Make sense so far?
There's almost a little bit of momentum in their thinking process that you don't want to break up. Now, it's weird because what I assumed, like yesterday, for example, was that the silence was hesitation silence, or even worse, decommitment silence. But you're saying that's only one out of the three potential scenarios.
Yeah, it is. And I like to use the alley metaphor with this. If we walk down an alley in the daytime, we're usually feeling pretty safe, right? It's a
Mhm.
shortcut or it's a way to get from A to B. But when it gets darker, the alley takes on a whole different level, right?
Yeah,
Now it's a place of danger, and don't walk down there alone. So nothing about the alley has fundamentally changed. It's just
true.
darker. And our mind, when we go into a sales conversation, that's the light alley. That's the alley in broad daylight. And when we mention price and somebody hesitates, the alley's gotten dark. It's psychological discomfort. And silence creates tension. And as humans, we're typically not really comfortable with tension. So we try to get rid of it. And our
Mhm.
instinct is to fix it, explain it, add more details, smooth the moment out, make sure everybody's happy. But what happens is you're signaling uncertainty, and uncertainty lowers your authority. And I see
Mhm.
this a lot. Somebody states their position clearly, they lay out a price, and the room goes dead. And within 3 seconds, that person's adding concessions and explanations. And really, what they're doing is weakening their own position.
The explanations, especially where it's you may not budge on your price, but you may
Yeah.
try to justify it and
Yep.
say, "This is why. Let me break it down to you. Let me give you an itemized list of all the things that need to go into the service that you're buying, and that's why the price is what it is." It does, you're
Yeah.
right, signal, "I'm not confident in this." I'm almost, like, convincing myself that it's worth that much just as much as I'm convincing you.
That's a great point. I think maybe we are convincing ourselves that the price we laid out there is accurate and okay, and they should pay it.
Yeah. So let's talk about those 3 different scenarios.
What we need to understand about those three different scenarios is this: anybody who can comfortably hold their silence usually holds their authority because composure communicates certainty. So if you can make a statement, let the room calmly process it, people are going to perceive you as more confident. As soon as you
Mhm.
fill that void, you signal doubt. So
Yeah.
silence becomes a test, not of your argument, but of your composure. And the person who remains calm in silence is going to be more certain. And one of the strongest signals of certainty in a conversation is the ability to hold tension. John, the skill here isn't to avoid silence, is learning how to use it. And I've compiled 5 steps that we can do in order to more effectively handle silence and thereby keep composure.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right. So the first is pause after important statements. So what I mean is you'd label your price. So let's say you charge $2,500. So
Mhm.
I charge $2,500 for the service, then just stop talking.
Yep.
Count to 5 seconds. And I can promise you, before you get to five, the other person is going to be chiming in. But the counting to five in your head allows you to occupy your thoughts. So you're not just thinking about the silence and the doubt and everything else that takes place. You're busy counting.
It's probably the one of the longest 5 seconds you can imagine,
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. Yeah, there's a lot of tension that takes place.
but that's
So,
what you wanna do, hold that tension out there. Just it's kinda like holding a plank position or when you're exercising,
yes.
holding out that last rep. It's just push through it, just push through those few seconds. You can do anything for a few seconds is what my coach says.
And it's very true. And think about what happens, John, is as you pause, your words get heavier. So the
Mm,
pause gives your words weight. And think about that. If I say to you, John, I charge $2,500, initially that's a pretty light statement. But as the
mhm,
seconds go by, everything gets heavier, right?
mm,
The
yes.
tension builds, the words get weight, but occupy your thoughts by counting to five. And by the time you get to 5, you're going to find that 99% of people are already going to be responding.
And we've mentioned this on a previous episode too. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? It's yeah, it's you want to like 1,000, 2, 1,000. Oh, it's painful, but you got to do it. And the more you hold out that tension, the better.
Yeah, I have friends of mine that say 1 Mississippi or 1 Cincinnati. They do something that extends that second out, to your point, to 1 full second.
1 Syracuse, 2 Syracuse, 3. Okay,
There
we
you
can do
go.
that.
Yeah, Syracuse needs some silence at this point. I'll tell you that for sure.
Moment of silence for the orange. All right.
Yeah, yeah. Number 2, don't answer unasked questions. Here's what I mean. Silence usually tempts people to explain things that were never questioned at all. So you say the price, the other person's quiet, and you start explaining why your price makes sense. And the funny thing is, nobody's challenged it. You are answering a question that no one has asked.
That's such a good point. That goes back to you made an assumption of what type of silence this was.
Yep. So the main thing is just continue to count to that 5 seconds in your head. If somebody doesn't challenge it and you answer the question, you're introducing a whole new set of variables that they have to consider.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're busy lowering your price, you're talking money off of your own table.
Yes.
So answer the question that was asked, not the question you imagined. Make sense?
It does actually make sense because you talked about those 3 different types. That puts it in perspective where I think this is all hesitation, so I have to remove that hesitation. What if it's commitment?
Exactly right. Yeah. And John, most of the time it is. When people hold that silence for 5 seconds and the person comes back with a positive response, many people I coach say, Jake, that surprised the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I was really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And they came back and said, yes. So once you do this a couple of times, it's going to get easier. It's just that first couple of times where this is almost unbearable.
Like stepping out onto a ledge, you feel exposed, but you're saying you build confidence the more that you do it because then you realize your price is right. And it makes sense if one person is willing to pay that price. Now you have a mental access point where you're like, that person's able to. So logically speaking, this isn't too high.
Yeah. And I think you were really onto something here. It just takes reps. It just takes doing it again and again. And after a while, you realize how powerful your silence is. And so using it just becomes that much more comfortable.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
All right. So, point number 3 is watch the body language.
Ooh.
Because you said, let's talk about differentiating the 3 and how do we differentiate them? Silence alone isn't going to tell you a lot. But silence combined with body language, that tells you a lot. If the person leans forward, that may mean they're leaning towards commitment. If they give you steady eye contact, if they change their posture forward or back, all of these are signaling evaluation, interest, hesitation, commitment. Leaning back and tight lips or looking away, that could be signaling hesitation. So we all know how to read body language. We don't need a book on how to do this. So just keep your eyes open, watch what the nonverbal cues are telling you, and they're going to help you understand just what kind of silence that you're dealing with.
It's pretty intuitive. You just gotta be paying attention instead of focusing on your own. Now, it is important probably to focus on your own body language too, right? Because I'm thinking, okay, if I let the silence happen, but I clench my teeth.
Right. You're
1,
wringing your
2,
hands.
3. I'm moving around in my seat, going, okay, just Jake said to count to 5. Let's 1 Cincinnati, 2 Cincinnati. Just push through the silence. Now all of a sudden, oh, that also signals discomfort, even if you do hold the silence.
Yeah, you're mopping the sweat off your forehead.
Yes.
You put your head down, take a deep breath. pull out an air sick bag, throw up into it. Yeah, all those things are not good. Here's
Silence doesn't just mean no noise. There's a body language element to it too.
yeah, and as we've said in previous episodes, 80% of our communication, up to 80%, is body language.
Very interesting.
And John, I just want to go back and touch on something we just said, that it doesn't take a degree in body language to make this happen. For those people who think I don't know what to look for, you do. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're talking with a friend or a significant other, and you say to them, let's go to McDonald's for dinner. And that person sits back or winces. You don't think to yourself, oh my God, they're sitting back and wincing? That's positive. We're ready to
Yeah.
go. We know inherently how to read signals. Or if I say, hey, John, I have this great idea, and you lean in and you maintain eye contact, my first thought isn't, wow, he hates this. So we
Yeah.
don't know how to do this inherently. Just trust yourself.
Yeah, we know how to do it in personal life, but for some reason, whenever we mention money, things change.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about number 4. Let's say that you're still hesitant about the body language. So, number 4 is ask a diagnostic question instead of filling space. If they do a certain body gesture that you're not sure of, or if the silence stretches way out past the 5 seconds, or if you're at 3 seconds and you're like, I can't stand it anymore, you can ask a simple question. You can ask something like, what's going through your mind right now? Or what part of this are you still weighing? Because what it does is it doesn't lower your price, it doesn't show that you're uncertain, it just invites engagement without lowering your authority.
Okay. That's a good idea. Really good idea. What's on your mind, Jake?
Exactly. Perfect.
Okay.
Now, one thing I would encourage you is get to the point where you can get to 5 in your head. But if you need to segue while you're getting used to this, wait at least 3 seconds before you ask the diagnostic question.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
I love that. So that question is not again saying, is that too high for you? Or
Yeah.
how are you feeling about the price? Or because you're putting assumptions into the question,
Yeah.
instead, just a very neutral question that says, what's on your mind? What are you thinking?
Yeah.
How does that feel? How about that question? How does that feel?
Don't go through into the how does it feel, because then you're asking them to get emotions involved. You
Okay.
need to just make it very generic. What's going through your mind? What part of this are you weighing? Just have it open ended enough that they can weigh in, but you don't want to direct it by saying, how are you feeling?
Okay, now we're
All
going
right.
to the emotional route, and losing money and paying money is always not an emotionally great experience. So yeah, sure. I
Yep.
see what you're saying.
All right. And number 5 is get comfortable with the tension. And what I mean by that is silence creates tension, but tension isn't bad. In fact, tension often means that the conversation matters. So here's an example. Let's say I lay out price and that other person goes into silence. And we already talked about that there's the 3 pieces, right? There's evaluation, hesitation, and commitment. I want to make sure that they take the price seriously. So if I pause long enough, that 5 seconds, and I create that tension, that shows that matters. As soon as I break the silence about my price, I'm saying to them, price doesn't matter enough for me to lose the deal over this. So I'm just going to go ahead and lower it until you say yes. All of a sudden, you tell them price does not matter to you, and it
Right.
does. So instead of removing the tension, allow it to exist, because people make decisions in moments of tension.
Yep.
How's that saying go? Is it necessity is the mother of invention? I don't know.
It's something like something like that.
Yeah.
Yep. It's
So
when your back's up against the wall, that's when the great things happen.
yeah, and that's even better. So it's in those times of tension that we make decisions. And if you
Yes.
rush to relieve it, you interrupt the decision process.
Yeah. So it doesn't really matter what type of silence they're experiencing.
Correct.
If it's hesitation, okay, let them hesitate.
Yep.
If they're thinking about it, they're evaluating it, let them evaluate. And if they're committing, certainly let them commit.
Exactly right. John, I just gave a talk this week where I asked people what was the hardest part about talking to a prospect. And the majority of the audience says when they say no. When I ask them when they say no, they say, whenever I tell them what the terms are or what the price is, and I say, do you ever let them just sit with it? And everybody to a person said, no, I negotiate it out right away. I lower it until I see comfort return. So this
Mm.
is very common. So if as a listener you're sitting with this, you're in very good company. This is difficult, but it can get better if you get comfortable with the tension.
But the one thing they're doing right when they're doing that is they're reading the signal,
Correct.
correct? They're reading the
Yep.
person's signal. They're just making the wrong assumption that the lower price is what they need to be doing to calm the signal.
Exactly right. Yep.
Interesting. Okay.
So let's review those five again, real quick. So the first one was pause after important statements. When you say something important, pricing, recommendation, shut up.
Hmm.
Let it land. Say the point clearly, pause, count to five in your head, and I absolutely promise you 99% of people will be talking again before the 5 seconds is up. But that
Very
pause
good.
gives your words weight. Number two, don't answer unasked questions. You say the price, the other person is quiet. All of a sudden, you start dropping the price and explaining why it makes sense, and they didn't even ask. So, only answer the questions that are asked, not the question that you imagine. Three, watch body language. So, if somebody leans forward, gives you eye contact, chances are they're interested and they're evaluating. Somebody leans back, tightens their lips, steeples their fingers, that may signal hesitation. Go with your gut. Those cues can help you understand what silence you're dealing with. Number four, ask a diagnostic question instead of filling the space. So if you get to second number three and you're like, God, I just need to check in, make sure it's a generic question. What's going through your mind right now? What part of this are you weighing? So invite the engagement without lowering your authority. And last but not least, get comfortable with tension. Tension is good. It's when decisions are made. So put in your reps, get to the point where you feel good about the tension. And if you rush to relieve it, just know that you're interrupting the decision making process. So I think the point I want people to take away, John, is silence is not the enemy in high stakes conversations. Information is. So the more comfortable you become disseminating information and then holding your silence, the more authority you're going to maintain in the room.
Ooh.
So influence isn't always about saying the right thing. Influence can often be knowing when not to say anything.
It's just the wisdom to have the right next move, which we all think about. Oh, I just got to come up with the perfect words. I got to come up with that magical key to unlock the prospect's wallet.
Yeah.
But sometimes that magical moment happens when neither of you is saying anything.
Yeah. And let me say one more story just to illustrate this point. I was giving a talk 2 weeks ago, and I really love to lay big chunks of silence in the middle of a talk. And when I asked for people's takeaways, several people said, I love the way you just let things sit when you're talking. And so just know that although the silence feels heavy to you, it's noticeable by them as well. So it's heavy to you and the listener, and it's just a matter of who's going to hold out longer. And it can be you. It just takes discipline.
Wow. Said it's very counterintuitive in the podcasting and broadcasting world because we think silence usually isn't a good thing because it's something went wrong,
Yeah.
right? But in a conversation, totally different game. And there's certainly a lot more on that and more about the strata framework because silence is a big piece of that. In Jake's book, Own the Room, it's all about how to communicate to be seen, heard, respected, and you can get that wherever you get your books right now. Own the Room is available, and there's even a book club for Own the Room, isn't
There is a book club on LinkedIn for people who are reading Own the Room, and it's got about 30 people in it. So feel free to check that out and join it.
Thanks for checking out Own the Room with Jake Stahl. If you've gotten value from this episode, share it with the solopreneur in your life who wants to know how to communicate to be seen, heard, and respected. Review and rate the show wherever you check out podcasts, and grab your copy of Own the Room, How to Communicate to be Seen, Heard, and Respected. We'll catch you next week on Own the Room.